All right, man. Let's talk about some NBA. DeMar DeRozan not happy with being in San Antonio. Also, the Bulls are rumored to explore a trade to send Zach LaVine to the Denver Nuggets, surrounded by a package that would be Michael Porter Jr. But first, let's talk about Shaq on his podcast, which Shaq is the hardest working dude in showbiz or in the music, entertainment, sports business. He said that the Clippers had to trade Paul George to win the championship. So let's talk about it. Hit that subscribe button, bell icon button. Share the video. Check our NBA Talk playlist for more videos like this for our live stream. Check out NBA 101 if you want to learn some old school basketball. Check our Retro Hoop Series playlist out. And let's start off with the Shaq thing. Shaq said they should basically trade Paul George for two players. And I think a really good team beats a super team, because with a super team, let's say you have 2 or 3 players, you have to surround those players with the perfect players. And a lot of times those players, after you use your mid-level exception, those players really are guys that's just trying to chase a ring, older guys. See, the Lakers' success is only going to be sustained around the guys that's surrounded about AD and LeBron. The Clippers, to look at Paul George and give a synopsis of him, throughout his playoff career that I can remember, he really never came up big. You know what I'm saying? He never really showed up. And I think that really became under a microscope when he went from Indiana to OKC. He got put out by Brown and them in Indiana a couple times. He got to OKC, him and Westbrook couldn't get over the hump. All right? And people started to see that he didn't show up in the playoffs. Then you go out, to the Clippers, and now he under the microscope in the bubble, he don't show up. So, to be honest, and then defensively, he doesn't do the job. That's the issue. Luka Doncic, and we should talk about him first. He was doing a funky Watusi on him and Kawhi Leonard. If Kawhi's giving it to you on the offensive end, and Paul George, you can't give it to us offensively, you better lock down defensively, and Luka shouldn't be getting 40 points a game, straight up and down. He better lock down defensively. That's the issue right there. If you're going to not play offense and be elite on offense, you better be elite defensively and shut down the Jamal Murrays and shut down the Luka Doncic of the world. And he was neither elite offensively or elite defensively. He took a shot at James Harden. Well, I could do more than just play offense, but you ain't really locking down defensively. And it's hard to play lockdown defense in today's game because you can't touch nobody. So I kind of agree with Shaq. I think if it's true that Paul George, you move him. Well, if it's true, if Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell, and Patrick Beverly is jealous of Kawhi Leonard, which I don't believe is true. Even if it ain't true, do you trade some of those guys to surround Kawhi Leonard as well? I think it's going to need a team around Kawhi Leonard. And to be honest, if you trade Paul George for 2 solid guys, you could trade them to the Knicks, and the Knicks got some really good players. They just consider bad players because they play in a bad organization. Mitchell Robinson is exactly who they need under the bucket. He ain't getting paid that much money. You go out there and look. Can you revive Dennis Smith Jr.? Can you get something out of Kevin Knox? Taj Gibson is an old veteran that can help you out. They got so many different players. Alfred Payton will be a really good point guard that can facilitate and defend and can score and can shoot a little bit. So it's a lot of situations. What if Sacramento don't want to pay De'Aaron Fox? Because you flip Paul George over there for, De'Aaron Fox, and maybe somebody else, or Harrison Barnes to help fill it out. They have endless possibilities, for the Clippers as well. And then you also hear rumor that Kawhi Leonard can opt out after next season and go back to Toronto. Can I see that happening? Maybe. Maybe he find out his happiness is in Toronto. It ain't like you left or you lifted the curse from Toronto and you're trying to lift the curse from the Clippers that really, quite frankly, it may be impossible to lift. So can Kawhi Leonard leave Clippers? Yeah. He can stay in the West. He can go back to Toronto. Do I see him going back to Toronto? Maybe Pascal Siakam was his best number 2 option. Think about that for a minute. Maybe Pascal Siakam was his best number 2 option. Maybe that was his Pippen. A guy that can defend, that can score, that was comfortable in that role. What if Pascal Siakam having one bad season doesn't mean he can't be a number 1. Straight up and down. Having one bad season really don't mean much. But to be honest, Toronto might be a good fit for him. Ain't nobody ever won with the Clippers. You know what I'm saying? If he can win next year, they can trade some players and fill the team out around him. The Clippers just don't have no depth, straight up and down. Even though the bubble wasn't real, you didn't get the most out of Montrezl, Lewis Williams, and Patrick Beverly because they all left the bubble. But Paul George is the one they probably need to trade and get a couple people for. And maybe Montrezl Harrell, but if they can go out there and get Mitchell Robinson, or they could trade him to Washington and get Thomas Bryant in a deal or Bradley Beal, it'll work, But if Kawhi do leave, if Kawhi do leave and head back to Toronto, I don't blame him. Sometimes you think your happiness is one place, and you get there and you miss the other place. You ever left a job and wish you would have stayed at your original job? That's why you got a large number of Americans that's scared to leave their job, even though if it's a job opportunity for $20 an hour, they comfortable making 12 because they scared to make that leap. And I learned that as I took promotions, kind of give a little life lesson. I would see promotions open and all you got to do is apply for it, and nobody else is going to go up against you because people were scared of responsibility. But, don't let people around your workplace, don't take that, don't do that, don't get that money. All you're doing is building your portfolio, and at some point you can have any job you want. But also about the DeMar DeRozan thing, he's not happy in San Antonio. They basically saying that, I guess he don't like the area. He don't like living in San Antonio. And there's something about them Southern California boys. Him and Kawhi Leonard, they enjoy Toronto. And Toronto is dope. If you ain't never been to Toronto, it's a dope city. It's basically everything you need. It's kind of a lot of homeless people when I went there like many, many years ago. There's a lot of homeless people on the streets, and they telephone lines or the power lines all funky, and it's like a big mess, but it's a good city. If I had to leave the country, I probably would go right up there to Toronto. I live in Detroit, so like literally, if I can cross the Ambassador Bridge, I can probably. It depends. You can go under the ground or over the bridge and be there in a minute. But if I can just get there and drive over the Ambassador Bridge with no traffic, I can be in Canada in 30 minutes, 40 minutes tops. But, DeMar DeRozan, he just don't like San Antonio. And I'm just saying, you there 41 games out the year. You on the road 41 other games out the year. After that, y'all ain't going to the championship right now in San Antonio. You can go to Southern California. You can go home. Them Southern California boys scared of cold, snow. San Antonio can't be that bad. You better go get you a churro. I heard they got the best churros around there. But apparently he ain't happy there. He want to leave, and I don't know why he ain't happy there. Maybe because he ain't winning and it's San Antonio. Maybe San Antonio, it ain't no place for a black man. But quite frankly, he getting paid a lot of money. But maybe he want to win. Would he want to go take a pay cut and play with Brown and go to the Clippers? I mean, maybe they can trade Paul George to San Antonio. Could LaMarcus Aldridge help them? I don't know. I mean, DeJounte Murray, he seemed to be a good guard. Maybe they go down there and they try to plug DeMar DeRozan there. He plays some defense, but once again, he another guy that just so happened not to show up in the playoffs. I don't think it's his fault. They was just shook a Brian, but, these dudes are just whiny and crybabies, but I ain't mad at them. If I was from Southern California, I wouldn't want to play nowhere else neither, but phenomenal talent, crybaby, just like Kawhi Leonard. And he ain't playing for no Lakers or no Clippers. He gonna have to play for the Sacramento Kings or something like that. But I don't know. He want to go to Minnesota and play with Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell. Popovich should get the best number one pick. He can scout guys, but it is what it is. But you also got some talk about. Let's end off with Michael Porter Jr. And Zach LaVine. And if Denver do that, give me Denver to win next year. I don't know what's going to happen with the Clippers and Lakers. But that's exactly what Denver need. Denver needs Zach LaVine. Jamal Murray can't be your number one scorer. He supposed to be a point guard. He got to facilitate. Now, somebody he can share the fourth quarter load with, because Jokic ain't just no dominant big man. He just don't have the mindset to be it. But Zach LaVine would be exactly what Denver need. All they would need him to do is defend at a high level. And I think he got the physical tools to do that. Zach LaVine to go over there and instantly be an all-star, even in the West. He go over there and Jamal Murray learn to play point guard and Jokic. You keep Will Barton, Gary Harris play some defense. That's exactly what they need. He ain't got to put up 30 points every night, but, in the playoffs, if Zach LaVine can give you that same energy, Zach LaVine in Denver, him and Jamal Murray might make the best backcourt in basketball at some point. But, if they can learn to defend better, That's a deadly part. But I'm not sure, who would Chicago target other than Michael Porter. Obviously Murray and Jokic off limits. Maybe they look at Will Barton, or they look at some draft picks. But for some reason, Chicago just want to get rid of Zach LaVine. And if you do, I would love my Pistons to get Zach LaVine. He's a baller. He's a baller. But I don't understand what's the issue with him. But you taking a chance on Michael Porter Jr. I think he would have been the number 1 pick the year he came out if he was healthy. But you taking a chance with Chicago. Unless they see somebody up there in the draft they like. Only guys I could think of, maybe they move up for LaMelo. It's been some talk they trying to move up for Melo, Anthony Edwards. But what you gonna get out of those guys? You already got Zach LaVine, so Zach LaVine must have some character issues in Chicago. I heard him and Jim Boylan, the ex-coach, didn't get along, but if I can get Zach LaVine, I'll give up my draft. I'll give up whatever. If I'm Denver, that's exactly what you need, a primary scorer to go again, to make Murray the second scorer and make Jokic the third scorer and the primary facilitator. Denver would be bad. They'd be a bad team. They would definitely win a championship if the powers that be in the NBA allowed them to win the championship. But we'll see. Could they trade Paul George for Zach LaVine and some people over there in Chicago? Who knows? Chicago, a young team, they must be looking for a veteran. They also got Kobe White. He more of a 2-guard, so maybe they're looking for a guy that can facilitate. Maybe they're looking for a point guard. More to facilitate them type. But the only one that can facilitate the draft I see is Tyrese Haliburton, the top guys. But, it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think. Check out the NBA Talk playlist. Don't forget we on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Reach out if you have a business question, inquiry, sponsorship, video request. All my social media links in the description. Twitter's the fastest way, then Facebook to Instagram. Also got a Facebook group. Check that out. Want to make a donation to the channel? Best way to do that is share the video. Please share the video. Best way to help spread the news about the channel. And other than that, hit that subscribe button, bell icon button. Want to make a financial donation? Cash App, CJ Good 313. PayPal link in the description. Want to check out my other channel, Primary Detroit Sports and News, Murder Street Sports Talk, right here on YouTube. One time for the one time. We go.